Hi, everyone. Thank you so much. So, today we'll be talking about how we can highlight daily successes in children, emphasize that parents were not alone with the different struggles we may have, identifying the support and accommodations that as parents we can seek, different ways that parents can offer their children independence, and also the importance of allowing your child to make mistakes and giving them space to grow. As many people and parents, we can be struggling. Kids do not come with manuals. It's very hard. There's a lot of burden that could come along, a lot of stress, a lot of struggles, but you're not alone. Always remember that. Always remember that the struggles you may be facing are struggles that are common, especially when having kids with ADHD or learning disabilities. You may be questioning yourself a lot. How come their grades aren't improving? How come their behaviors are getting worse? Am I doing this correctly? How do I answer their question? There are many different support and specialists out there. For example, Chad. They have a lot of different webinars that are very supportive and very helpful. They also have blogs. Also, you have tutors. Great academic tutors, especially ones that specialize with working in kids with ADHD or learning disabilities, already understand how to work academically with children that may have these struggles. And then you have ADHD coaches, people like me. So they are helpful because they help your child to be held accountable instead of you having to take on that struggle, helping them learn to problem solve, to use different tools to help them with academics and also with to help them personally with any struggles they're going through. And then in school services, you have guidance counselors, especially in college, you have disability services, which help with them finding accommodations. So those are some resources that can help to lift those struggles off your shoulders, giving your child independence. This can be very difficult because we need to understand that as parents, mistakes happen, and that a key thing is let your child mess up. It's beneficial for your kids to make mistakes because it'll help them learn themselves. It'll help them see the different consequences and helps them understand that if I turn in a paper late, then my teacher may come and ask me what's going on. My grade may not be very well. And it helps them just to figure out things for themselves. So if you feel like you are hovering over your child's shoulder, or you know that they have a paper due, but they haven't even started it and it's due the next day, take a step back and say, I'm going to let my child handle it themselves, because that's also giving them freedom and independence, and let them have the consequences. If you're constantly reminding them that they have a task to do, then it also creates anxiety for them. And when children start to get anxious, then they start to shut down, especially kids with ADHD and learning disabilities, because already they're having difficulties maybe understanding things. So just make sure and know that it's okay to let your kids mess up. It helps them grow. It helps them become independent. So when you find yourself wanting to step in, step back and repeat to yourself, what are ways instead I can help? So what you can do instead is you can maybe remind them to use a problem solving skills rather than saying, why don't you get your paper done? Because it helps them to problem solve on their own. Another key thing is to let them explore and have their own journey. This helps them to figure out themselves as a whole being. So by letting them have their own journey, making their own mistakes, by giving them that independence, they're able to figure out for themselves, use different tools they've learned to understand how they could be the best person. These are the different things that make me procrastinate. By procrastinating and not getting assignment done makes me anxious. So therefore, I need to do my assignment. By giving them that independence, by giving them that opportunity to make mistakes and to mess up, helps them become more of an advocate, helps them be able to talk for themselves, take that next step, to use the tools and the technique that they have in their toolbox to help them make that next step forward for their journey. Always remember that you are there as a support. Don't always step in and let them come to you. You are always there as a hand to hold to help remind them of the different tools. Always highlight the successes in your student's life. This is very, very key when you start to notice that your student is messing up a lot. This is when you want to go in and highlight the successes you are seeing when you want to use positive terminology. For example, if you know that your student has got a C on their test, you could say, great job getting a C on your test, rather than saying, great job on getting a C, but if you studied harder, you could have gotten a better grade. That puts a negative connotation in the child's mind. That actually brings the self-confidence of your child a lot farther down. It makes them become insecure, to start thinking negatively, which is not what we want. We want them to think positively, to think that they can do it, they can be independent. And also, what's really awesome about highlighting the successes is that your child will actually be more open to accepting feedback and support given. Oftentimes, we see these mood changes when there's a change in routine, in transitioning. So when we see this change, then we see more anxiety, depression comes into play. And that's when you want to hone in on what success did I see today that I can verbalize to my child to help build up their self-confidence. Yes, it might seem like hold handing at first, but remember to give them that independence. Another example is if you see that your student is not logging in independently for class in the morning, or is just not logging in general, once you start to notice that, you can maybe say, how is class going? Or you can also just say, I'm proud of you for logging into class independently, because that shows them that you're noticing that they are logging into class during the day because it's virtual learning, but also that's helping the child to see that my parents are noticing, but also reminding them that I need to make sure I log into my other classes as well. So by highlighting the successes and the positivity in their mind, they're seeing it as, I have all this self-confidence, this positivity. Let me remember that I need to log into my morning class. Let me remember that I need to complete my work and assignments. Another example is oftentimes daily life, right? So when kids have chores, one thing is to let the child not put their clothes away. So if you see that their clothes have not been put away, remember, don't go over there and remind them, just let that happen, because they'll learn over time that I can't find that shirt. That means I need to put my clothes away so I can find that shirt. Once you start to notice that they're putting their clothes away on their own, you go in and say, nice job putting your clothes away. You're doing a great job. That boosts up their self-confidence. That helps them see that I can do it. Let me keep doing this. Let me keep showing mom, dad that I can do it. I'm worthy. Also remember, all negative statements can become positive. Every little thing builds up. And next thing you know, they'll be doing things independently. They'll be self-advocating. They'll feel like they're worthy. They'll feel like they're self-confident. And oftentimes they'll come back to brag to you a little bit, especially with my college students. They feel so excited telling their parents that I went to class independently. I logged in. I actually studied for the test. So over time, by giving them that space to grow, they will come to you. So really, especially with the college students, highlighting the success.
Can you relate some of the tips that you shared with a young person at work? How can a mom pull off those same tips and give those same notes of encouragement that you shared with her teen or young adult at their job?
So at their job, what you can do is when they communicate with you on things that are going on, that's where I would say you would really want to highlight the successes and how you see with their job and what they're doing and how they are improving. And really, that's where you want to focus on the daily things. So if your child comes to you being very negative, that's when you can look and try to help them out looking at the positives, to highlight the successes that went on during the day, especially during work when it can be very hard, overwhelming, a lot going on. And also with the independence part of it, being helping them to be more of an advocate, that's where to emphasize the journey.
How do we go from negative self talk to realizing the cause and getting out of that deep hole, especially if your child doesn't ask for help?
So, getting out of negative self talk, I find is very, very common. Sometimes a lot of students will procrastinate because they want to take a break, right? They want to avoid doing the task. So, that's when trying to look at the negative self talk into positive is to help redirect them. But procrastination can be a very difficult thing. So oftentimes what I like to do is just really try to look at the procrastination in a different sense. Look at why else are we procrastinating? Is it because we just don't want to do it? Or is it because we miss the socializing? Is it because there's something else better going on, like a TV show? So sometimes looking at procrastination bigger and trying to kind of get to the root of it. When you start seeing your child, the procrastination decrease, then that's exactly where you want to go in and use some highlighting the success. Go in and say, great job starting your paper. You want to go in, even if you see a little bit of the student doing their work, but they're doing a lot of procrastination, but they're still doing a little bit of work, still go in there and emphasize about how great they're doing on getting that work done, because they will see that as, wow, they're just saying I'm doing work. This is good. Let's keep it going on.
Do you have any study tips?
I'm a big fan of the note cards. So using note cards, because if you have a unit test or at the end of the month or semester or the chapter, it builds on, then you can keep those note cards. Now with the note cards, what's very interesting that I like to do is if they're using like a vocab word from a textbook, make sure on the note card to put the page number so you know on the note card where you found that information. If it, for example, is a history class and in the history textbook, it's asking you about a different event that occurred, make sure to put on there the page number so you know where you can go if you're not sure or don't understand the explanation of what you put on your note card to flip it over. Also, if you have notes, put also on the note card the day that you took those notes so you're able to also refer back. Another great way to study for tests is that verbally talk out loud, either to yourself or talk out loud in the mirror or talk out loud to someone else and just explain overall what the topic is. Because by you verbally out loud explaining is helping you to understand yourself. Because if you put it in your own words, then you're more likely to better retain the information than just for, say, reading it out of a textbook. And if you're not sure, then don't be afraid to ask questions. And also a lot of YouTube as well. So you can look up certain, like I said, for history, like a certain event. You can look it up on YouTube to try to get a better understanding of it. Or you can look up, say that for math, I had a student who needed to study but wasn't sure how to solve a certain algebra problem. So we looked it up on YouTube and someone was there showing him how to do the algebra problem. Is very beneficial, very helpful, because you can also pause the video as well.
Okay, so we have a mom who's saying they have let the student fail and nothing seems to be working. He constantly needs to be reminded and they feel like they have to helicopter him for anything to get done. And so she's asking, do you have any tips or suggestions?
If you haven't gotten a coach, that can be very helpful because it has someone else hold them accountable. Because oftentimes, as parents, especially helicoptering them, they're less likely to want to do the work. Just despite that, the fact that mom and dad are telling me to do this, I don't want to do it, especially at that age, it's a bit rebellious. And also, what I would say, because I definitely see this with my students, is to maybe sit down and talk to them and just ask them what works for him, in the sense of you were saying about helicoptering them. So ask your child, do you like that we helicopter you? Which most likely will be no, but you never know. And then you can go from there. So oftentimes I would suggest maybe talking to your child and having a conversation about not the fact that he's failing, but the fact that what might be helpful that they do for him. Sometimes you will get the answer, I don't know, or I don't want to talk about it. And that's when you probably most likely want to seek outside support if you're not already. A lot of times when they say, I don't know, just give them the wait time to let them kind of process and let them kind of think about the question you asked. That's also something that's very important, just in general, is just keep that silence and let them process. Because automatically, when you ask a question, it's going to be, I don't know. Bite your tongue, let them process what the question was, a little bit, leave the silence, and they may actually come up with something. You never know. Also, I would suggest is to see if there are certain classes he is failing. And if there are, then maybe ask him how that class is going. Maybe it's because he doesn't enjoy the class or he finds it hard to understand.
Do you have any app suggestions for helping a student with reminders?
If they do not already, Google Calendar has great reminders. There's also To-Do List, which is very helpful. That's a great app. And what it is you put in different things that you would like to do and obviously set a reminder. And then I also would say that if they have a iPhone, just the reminder section is great. There's also something called Remember the Milk, and then there's Google Keep as well. So I would try Google Calendar and Google Keep.
Thank you, Jessica, for your presentation and for your time today.
Thank you very much.